What's happening, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Cash Talks, the place where you guys get to become the best version of yourself. So in this video, we're going to be going through the anxious attachment style. So if you haven't already checked it out, go check out my previous video where I go through all the different attachment styles, and in that you'll discover the anxious attachment style and have a better understanding of what we're going to be going through in this video. So at the end of this video, you're going to discover whether you are the anxious attachment style or whether your partner is, and in discovering that, it's going to help your relationship so much more. This means literally no more messy relationships in the future, no more chasing for that love that you so deeply desire, no more dealing with traumatic past relationships. This means truly setting yourself for a healthy future. So stick around for the end of this video. Now, the way to describe these people is that these people have a very, very positive view of the rest of the world, but a very negative view of themselves. They think their partner is amazing. They think that they're not good enough for their partner, unfortunately. Why? Because they have such low self-esteem. They have very low confidence. Unfortunately, they just don't see themselves as good enough for the rest of the world, and that leads to them having a lot of relationship problems. But the positive side of this is that they are massive lovers. They are completely obsessed with romance. They wear their heart on their sleeve. They see love as this amazing movie and fantasy that they so deeply desire. And it's really nice the fact that we have these types of people in the world, but unfortunately it's coming from a bad place, and once we fix that place, everything else will fall into place. So we think deep and fly high on this channel. So in order to understand where this attachment style is coming from, we have to go beneath the surface if we want to find that healthy relationship. So beneath the surface of an anxious attachment style is two massive fears. Number one is fear of abandonment. They truly fear the fact that their partner may leave them. And number two is fear of not being loved. They genuinely fear that they're unlovable, unfortunately. And this is all subconscious. This is the point, that is beneath the surface. It's all subconscious. They're never actually thinking at the forefront of their mind that, oh, I'm unlovable, or, oh, he's gonna leave me. They may do, but generally it's subconscious. It's something that they feel inside, but are most of the time unaware of. And as a result, will create actions in their life being unaware of what's actually inside. So generally, they're unaware of what they actually want in relationships and what they actually desire. And this is because they're just constantly focused on chasing love rather than focusing on what they want. So they're just focused on finding that love in their partner and fulfilling their partner's desires and over-pleasing and everything, rather than just focusing on themselves like they should be. So in a relationship, naturally, these people will be pleasers. They will be over-pleasers, because they fear abandonment. They fear that person is too good for them and they're not good enough, so they're gonna think, I need to over-please to make sure that person stays and doesn't leave me. They are so rejection sensitive, unfortunately, which leads to them doing certain things in certain ways to try and control and keep hold of their partner, which is so unhealthy. They're unfortunately, as a result, really clingy. But at the same time as being so clingy, they never fully connect with their partner because they fear so much in the process. They're in constant anxiety and constantly thinking about their partner, and it gets so emotionally draining and unhealthy, even for their mental health. It's so bad because what happens is they're constantly on edge. What if my partner does this? Then they'll have to leave me. I don't want them to leave me. Let me try and control the situation and save it. But obviously, we can't save every situation. Their imagination is just gonna run wild as a person. Like, they will always be thinking of negative scenarios and negative situations in a hope of trying to avoid this person abandoning them. It's counterintuitive. They'll think, what if he does this? The person's naturally probably not doing that, but they'll think, what if this person's doing this, in the hope of finding a red flag to save the relationship from abandonment, if that makes sense. So they'll think up a scenario to hope that by understanding this scenario is about to maybe take place, I can save the situation. But actually what it does is it creates more friction between you and your partner, or your partner and yourself, and as a result will lead to a more unhealthy relationship. So just be careful about all of this and be aware about all of this that I'm talking about, so that you can hopefully stop it from happening next time. Now, these people in a relationship, they have issues trusting, as we can see from the fact that they will think of negative scenarios all the time. They are constantly on edge, constantly anxious. So they do have a big issue trusting, and because they have low self-esteem, it obviously is emphasized. But having said that, they crave intimacy. So this creates a big issue. They want to be close to that person, but struggle trusting that person at the same time, which is a big issue because it means that you can never truly love the person entirely and truly connect with that person because there's this underlying trust issue. Now, they are also very dependent on their partner. Because they obviously have low self-esteem, they rely on their partner to boost their self-esteem. They rely on their partner for reassurance, affection, attention, everything, basically. Their entire satisfaction in life relies on their partner. And this gets really unhealthy because not only does it put a strain on their partner, but it means that they're not finding it from themselves, which is such a bad position to be in. You are putting your power, your respect, your happiness in someone else's hands. And that's an issue. So just be aware, as an anxious type, you can get very dependent. These people, they're really sensitive as well because they're so on edge. So one text in a different tone will set them into understanding that, oh no, my partner's upset, I've done something wrong, what can I do to fix it? They are very sensitive to their partner's moods. So if you are this partner, just be aware of that. Now obviously I can go into loads of specific types of behaviors. One specific behavior is how they'll set out ultimatums in their head. So because they obviously want their partner to be better, because naturally they've probably attracted someone who's not right for them, they will set ultimatums in their head and think, if this person's not changed by this date, then I'll have to leave. Now they won't leave because of fear of abandonment. So what will happen is they'll come to the date of when they should have changed. They'll see that the partner hasn't changed because they haven't communicated properly, because they have issues with communicating, because they fear abandonment. And as a result, they'll feel even more upset with their partner, creating more issues with their relationship because initially they have feared the abandonment. So it's just like, it's this constant cycle of just problems after problems after problems after problems, scenarios thought up, imagination running wild, just negative thinking overall, all because of these fears that haven't been dealt with. And that's the main point I really want to get across here. I know this can come across as maybe confusing, but maybe you can relate to a lot of this stuff and you'll realize that actually there's a lot of fears underlying which you can solve to help better your relationships. And one thing I want to make clear is, okay, the anxious type typically is chasing for love, right? But the reason this is still an issue is even if someone comes into your life and they show you so much love and so much affection and give you everything you want, as an anxious type, you will not be able to accept it. Why? Because as humans, we like familiar pain. So as an anxious type, the familiarity of chasing for love will feel more comfortable than being given it. So you will actually reject the person subconsciously by pushing them away, finding them unattractive, finding them boring, doing something to push them away because you prefer the familiar pain of chasing for love, because you haven't dealt with what's underlying. And that's one thing I want to make really clear. This is why anxious attachment styles and avoidant attachment styles really need to work on their problems to help bring themselves to a more secure state, because you'll never find true happiness or satisfaction in your relationship otherwise. And that leads me on to the next thing. So the typical partner of the anxious type is the avoidant type. The avoidant type is emotionally unavailable. The anxious type craves emotional intimacy. So you're probably wondering why this is. It all goes back to that point. Familiarity of pain. The anxious type, actually grown up or through trauma previously, is used to this idea of having to chase for their love because they feel that they're unlovable. They're used to the idea of someone else being better for them and them not being good enough. So they find the emotionally unavailable type perfectly suited to them. Obviously this is not true, but to them it feels perfect because it feels familiar. And that's the problem. So the emotionally unavailable type, they think they're amazing. They think they have extremely high self-esteem, and as a result, that then can rub off onto the anxious type, but it doesn't. And obviously this leads to so many problems, and I'm going to be making a video on this, as I mentioned in my previous video, so definitely hit the subscribe button to wait for that. This relationship particularly is one of the most common relationships, especially amongst the younger population, because we're unaware of this stuff. And as a result, it leads to a lot of unhealthy problems and unhealthy relationships in the future. Outside of a relationship, an anxious type will probably find another relationship, which is really bad. They obviously struggle being alone because they fear this abandonment. They want the intimacy, they crave it. But they've got a lot of issues to deal with. So they'll find someone else, but it won't necessarily be a perfect relationship either. It will just be constantly rebounding after rebounding after rebounding after rebounding until eventually maybe they find a solution to their issues. Now, one thing I mentioned in my previous video was that the attachment styles are important because it doesn't just affect your relationships, it actually affects things like your income and overall happiness in life. And with the anxious type, unfortunately, it affects their income really badly because they're so preoccupied with their relationship, constantly thinking about their relationship, constantly on edge about their relationship, constantly trying to solve their relationship. They never really get to focus on achieving their goals and dreams and aspirations in their career. So their income is naturally affected. And also, I mean, their overall happiness levels aren't that great either because they're constantly on edge. So it's really important to solve these issues to help with that. Now, in terms of jealousy, so the anxious type, naturally, they get jealous very easily. Why? Because they fear the abandonment, as I've said multiple times in this video. They genuinely fear it. And as a result, they will get jealous very, very quickly, just over the smallest things. Who's that girl? Who's that guy? You're friends with this person? What are they like? Are they out to basically be your partner? No. Like, they're just constantly questioning things, creating scenarios in their head, imagining things, fearing things. They are very jealous people, but it comes from a place of something that they're lacking. Breakups. Okay, so breakups with the anxious types. As I mentioned, obviously, outside of relationships, they will rebound to the next person. But the way they'll deal with a breakup, unfortunately, they'll go through a lot of emotional turmoil. They will go through a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, because they're so emotionally invested in the relationship that when they break up, their emotions are still tied. And obviously that, plus the fact that they don't feel that they're good enough, plus the fact that they fear the abandonment, plus the fact that they feel that they're unlovable, like, it just adds up entirely. So yeah, they take breakups the hardest, unfortunately. And in some cases, they'll run straight back to their ex because it's almost like a quick fix to their self-esteem, but it's not actually a true fix. So just be aware of that. If you're doing that, or if your partner does that, just be aware of that. And sometimes they'll have to find their identity again. It's very easy for the anxious type to lose their identity within the relationship because they're so preoccupied by the relationship. So when they finally come out of it, it takes time for them to re-identify with themselves again. Now, the childhood. What led them to basically being like this? So it's all to do with childhood and trauma. So it's partly them upbringing, but partly also maybe previous relationships that have led to them being this way. So if it's their childhood, what's happened is inconsistent parenting has occurred, where sometimes the caregiver has been there and shown affection and attention and love and everything to the child when they're crying, and other times the child has been crying and the caregiver hasn't been there. So it's this inconsistent parenting. Now, there's two ways things can go at this point. Either they become avoidant, which as I mentioned in the previous video, or they become anxious. So what will happen is, throughout their life, something will occur triggering anxiety. They'll seek closeness in someone, being their partner. And what will happen is that person may either respond positively or negatively. If they respond negatively, which is what will happen when they're in a relationship with an avoidant type, then the partner will basically increase in anxiety because this person has responded negatively to their emotions, and then seek further closeness with that partner. So they'll just jump straight back into, no, give me more attention, give me more affection. It's almost like a constant cycle, and that can obviously put strain on the relationship. So again, just be aware of this stuff. The way it's really relatable to childhood is, as a child, if not given attention, affection, or whatever, or love in that moment, a child would either throw a tantrum or get upset or cry a lot. And if you relate that to an adult relationship, you'll see if they're not given the love, attention, affection that they need, they'll react badly. They'll get upset, they'll cry, they'll do an action that's really impulsive, they'll react emotionally really badly, they'll do something. You'll kind of see the correlation between both situations. But the good news is, all of this can be changed. And that is one thing I really want to get across. It's very easy to kind of sometimes find out about your attachment style and start feeling really, really bad about yourself because you're like, oh, I'm this type of person now, like, what am I going to do? Am I even going to find love? No, of course you will, and that's why you're watching this video. Like, the fact you're into self-development and changing yourself and becoming the best version of yourself just means you will do it. And that is why I created this channel. So stay subscribed, because I promise I'm going to make a video on changing your attachment style to become more secure. Because the truth is, and one thing that's just we need to accept is, only at that secure state can you both have a healthy, loving relationship. And it's so unfortunate we're not told this stuff in schools, because you get children growing up with these types and they never ever are aware throughout their entire life, when it's just a matter of becoming aware and changing a few things that could literally lead to the most happiest, healthiest, perfect relationship. But anyway, point is, I'm gonna be making a video and changing it, so definitely subscribe, like this video if you related to it, comment down below if you related to it in any way, whether it's your partner, whether it's you, whether it's someone that you know, and please share this video. There is probably someone that you know who is the anxious type. Maybe they could benefit from this video, so please share it. And follow me on Instagram, cashtalks_. I release more stuff like this on my Instagram. I release quotes about this. I release little, reels about this. Whatever it is, definitely go check that out. And feel free to DM me, but I prefer if you comment down below because then I can comment back. But yeah, that's it. Hope you have a great day. Sunday next week, 5 p.m. Cash Talks is out.